I've spent the last week in a daze, trying to make sense of a reality that feels more like a nightmare than my actual life. I'm 41, a stay-at-home mum, and my name is Sarah. My husband, Paul, is 48 and works in finance. We've been married for nearly 2 decades and have 2 children, Eric, our 18-year-old son, who is currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. To say the least, I'm devastated, shaken, and terrified of what's to come. It's almost impossible to explain what I'm going through, but I'll try my best. Over the years, my marriage with Paul had become routine, predictable, and at times, a little stale. His work schedule was demanding, and while we both tried to make things work, I could feel the distance between us growing. Maybe it was because I wasn't as young as I once was, or perhaps it was something else. The truth is, I always had this nagging feeling that Paul wasn't as present in our marriage as he should be, but I never really had any hard proof, until now. It all started last week. I was just going about my day when I happened to glance at Paul's phone screen as he left it unattended on the kitchen counter. I didn't mean to snoop, but what I saw stopped me in my tracks. There, on his phone, was a text message thread between Paul and Amy, our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. At first, I couldn't believe it. It looked like Amy was saying something inappropriate. She told Paul she missed sucking his. My heart dropped. I froze, staring at the screen, trying to convince myself that I had misread it, that he was imagining things. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. For the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe I was overreacting. But then, while looking through Paul's computer, hoping to find some clue about a project I was working on, I came across a file full of BDSM porn. It was clear that Paul had a significant porn addiction, but that wasn't all. As I dug deeper, I found something that made my stomach turn. Paul had saved photos of Amy, yes, my son's girlfriend, on his computer. They weren't sexual, but they were there, all the same. I couldn't believe it. These weren't just photos. They were a sign that I wasn't going crazy. Over the following days, I became obsessed. I checked his phone whenever I could, and every time I found more interactions between them. The messages were disgusting, filled with cruel and insulting remarks about me. Paul would call me fat, old, and other hurtful things. And Amy, she would laugh it off, encouraging his awful behavior. I thought I knew my husband, but this was something I never could have imagined. I had suspicions before, sure. There were little things over the years, like last month, when I found a thong in our bedroom that didn't belong to me. I told myself it was probably just some mix-up. Maybe it was one of the kids' friends. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. I let it go, ignore its sinking feeling in my stomach. But now I had undeniable proof. I've always suspected Paul of cheating, but never in my wildest dreams did I think it would be with our son's girlfriend. Eric has been dating Amy since they were freshmen in high school. He absolutely adores her, and I've always thought of her as part of the family. She's someone I welcomed into our home and into our lives. The idea that she was involved with Paul, my husband, the man I've spent 20 years with, is unbearable. And worse, I know that Eric is completely in love with her. The thought of telling him this devastating truth is paralyzing. I've been trying to figure out what to do next. I'm terrified of the consequences, especially for my son. I can't even begin to imagine how this will affect him. The idea of ripping his heart apart, of telling him that the woman he loves has been with his father, feels like a kind of betrayal in itself. My heart aches for Eric and for Mary, who is also completely innocent in all of this. They don't deserve any of this pain. I am so overwhelmed right now, I don't even know where to begin. Confronting Paul doesn't seem like an option. I can't bring myself to do it, not yet. I'm afraid of the fallout, of what will happen if I tell him I know. I'm scared of the emotional toll this will take on all of us. But the truth is, I have to act. Something needs to be done. I can't live in this hell forever, pretending like everything is normal. I keep thinking about the timing of it all. Why now? Why did Paul start this affair right when Amy turned 18? Was he waiting for her to become legal before making a move? It all feels calculated, like something out of a bad movie. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I've been living in a nightmare. I can't even begin to imagine what the future holds for me and my children. I'm not even sure if I'll ever be able to forgive Paul for this betrayal, not just against me, but against our son. I want to tell Eric, but how? How do I shatter his world in a way that doesn't break him completely? And how do I ever look at Amy the same way again? Right now, I just feel like I'm drowning. I don't know where to turn or what to do. It feels like my whole life has been a lie. And I'm too scared to wake up from it. The only thing I'm certain of is that everything has changed, and I have no idea how to move forward from here. That's where I'm at right now. This is all so new and raw, and I have no idea how this will unfold. I'm writing this, not for sympathy, but to share my story and seek some understanding. Maybe there's someone out there who's been through something like this. I could really use some advice. It's been a few days since I wrote last, and I still can't seem to shake this heavy feeling that's been sitting on my chest. The pain hasn't gone away, and it probably won't for a long time. But I'm trying to pull myself together. I need to. My kids need me to. The truth is, I've spent hours every day since my last post going over every piece of information I've gathered. I've been methodical, almost obsessive about it. I'm not proud of the lengths I've gone to, but I needed to be sure. I needed proof. I couldn't allow myself to be in the dark about something so important, especially when it involved my own family, my husband, and my son. One of the first things I did, after I found the disturbing messages on Paul's phone and the evidence of his pornography addiction, was to reach out to a lawyer. I couldn't handle this alone anymore. My brother connected me to a lawyer who's tough, someone who's known for handling complex cases and has no tolerance for the kind of deceit Paul was capable of. I needed someone on my side who could help me navigate this disaster and keep my children safe. I spent the next few days trying to gather everything I could. I saved screenshots of every conversation between Paul and Amy, starting from the moment I knew something wasn't right. The conversations were overwhelmingly filled with graphic and sexual talk, things I could never unsee. I'm not sure what hurt more, seeing Paul, the man I loved for so long, speak to someone so casually about our most private and intimate moments, or the disgusting way he talked about me behind my back. It was like he was mocking me, saying I was fat and old while laughing about it with Amy. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Paul had also been using dating apps for months. I took screenshots of his profiles, which clearly showed his preferences for young women, aged 18 to 22. I found his active chats with multiple matches. I also went through his computer and found more damning evidence: sex chat rooms, forums, and even his subscription to OnlyFans. There were photos, so many photos, and not just of random women, but of Amy, our son's girlfriend. It made me sick. I don't even know why he was doing this. Was it just a midlife crisis, or something more twisted? The more I discovered, the more I wanted to scream. I was angry, beyond angry. But the worst part, I wasn't even sure how to feel about Amy. I've always loved her like a daughter, treated her like family, and now she's caught in the web of my husband's betrayal. Was she a victim too? Or was she complicit? I don't know what to think. It's too much. I couldn't keep this to myself. I had to tell my kids. I thought about it constantly, knowing that once I told them, there would be no going back. But I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to be honest with them, even though it would shatter their world. I picked them up from school, both of them noticing something was off as soon as they got in the car. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told them everything. Mary was the first one to react. Her anger was raw and immediate. She was furious, more furious than I had ever seen her. I think she felt a deep sense of betrayal, not just for me, but for herself. She had grown up in a house where we were supposed to be a team, a family, and now that was all shattered. Eric, on the other hand, was quieter. He didn't say much, but his pain was evident. He was hurting in ways I couldn't yet understand. It was like the life he had been living had come to a screeching halt. I couldn't protect them from this. I knew that. But at least they knew the truth now. They didn't have to walk around with that heavy weight of confusion like I had. I reached out to Amy's mother, hoping she would understand the gravity of the situation. She listened to me, and when I explained everything, she took action. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the chat logs that matched everything I had seen. It was clear that my husband and Amy had been in a romantic and sexual relationship for some time now, even though Amy had always insisted it was just a mentorship at first. The more I learned, the more disgusted I became. The most heartbreaking part was hearing from Amy's mother that when she confronted her, Amy had actually sobbed, and told her that she and Paul were in love. Amy believed she was in love with him. She was trying to convince herself that this was something pure, something real. But deep down, I know that it wasn't. This wasn't love. This was manipulation. It was clear now that Paul had taken advantage of Amy's vulnerabilities, and I couldn't stand it. How could he do this to our son? To all of us? The worst part is that Amy still doesn't get it. She's completely blind to what Paul has done, and she refuses to see him for what he really is. I know her mother is trying to get through to her, but Amy's delusions are deep. She's convinced that Paul is her real man, and that I'm just jealous and trying to tear them apart. She's made it clear she doesn't want therapy, that she doesn't need help. But I can't give up on her. She needs someone to show her the truth. But right now, I'm not sure I'm the person who can do that. I confronted Paul about everything over Zoom. He looked like a man who was completely unhinged. His face was flushed, and he was sweating. His eyes darted around in panic. When I accused him, he went into overdrive, yelling about context and insisting that nothing had happened between him and Amy. He was lying and he knew it. The more he talked, the less sense he made. But I saw the panic in his eyes, and I knew that he was cornered. He knew I had all the evidence, and he couldn't talk his way out of it. It wasn't until he suddenly yelled at me, "You have no right to take my kids away from me," that I knew he was scared. He hung up abruptly, and I was left staring at the screen, wondering what the hell just happened. I haven't heard from him since. I've filed for divorce, and my lawyer is moving forward with everything. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm determined to get full custody of the kids and make sure Paul is held accountable for everything he's done. There's no turning back now. As for Amy, I know she's hurting too, but she's also complicit in all of this. I don't know how to help her, but I'll keep trying. At the end of the day, though, I have to focus on my children and their well-being. They need me, and I'm not going to let them go through this alone. I wish I had all the answers, but I don't. What I do know is that this betrayal has changed everything. My family, my life, my marriage, it's all been torn apart. And now I'm left to figure out how to put the pieces back together. It's been a few weeks now since I confronted Paul, and life has felt like it's been in a constant state of upheaval. There are moments when the weight of everything feels unbearable, and there are other times when I feel like I'm starting to regain control, piece by piece. But I'm not going to lie, it's hard. Every day feels like a balancing act, and I'm constantly reminded of how deep the betrayal goes. The anger I feel, the heartbreak for my kids, the terror of how to rebuild after something like this, it's all overwhelming. But I know I can't stop moving forward. I have to keep going. Not just for me, but for Eric and Mary. When I last updated, I had just begun the process of filing for divorce. Since then, things have moved faster than I anticipated. My lawyer has been amazing, pushing for full custody of Mary and a temporary restraining order against Paul. It's been a process, but I feel like I'm taking control of a situation that felt out of my hands for so long. The hardest part has been the emotional fallout for my kids. They're hurting, and there's only so much I can do to make it better. Eric, my son, is dealing with this in his own way. He's been incredibly strong throughout all of this, but I can tell he's struggling. We've been talking a lot more since everything came to light, and he's opened up to me about how it's been affecting him. He's the one who has the most difficult road ahead. Not only has he had to process the fact that his father was cheating on me, but he's also had to face the reality that his first love, Amy, betrayed him in a way he could never have imagined. I've never seen my son so hurt, but at the same time he's so level-headed. He wants to see a therapist, which I think is a really healthy step. I'm proud of him for being open to that. I know it's not easy for him to face all this pain, but he's handling it with a maturity that astounds me. Mary, on the other hand, is a bit of a different story. Her anger has been so intense, and honestly, I understand why. She feels betrayed, not just by Paul, but by the whole situation. She's angry at him for what he did, angry at Amy, angry at me for having to go through this. She's been asking me questions about her dad's behavior, and I've had to do my best to answer, even when it's hard. She's starting to piece things together, and it breaks my heart to see her grappling with this new reality. I can't tell you how much it hurts to know that my children are now carrying this burden. It wasn't supposed to be like this, but through it all, I'm trying to give them space to feel what they need to feel. I've encouraged both of them to get therapy, and Mary is still on the fence about it. She says she wants to take some time for herself, and I respect that. but I know deep down that she's struggling. I can see it in the way she shuts down at times, the way she holds everything in. I want so badly to help her, but all I can do is be there, support her, and wait for her to be ready to talk. I hope she gets there soon because I know it's hard for her to deal with all of this on her own. In the meantime, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I've had to think long and hard about my marriage to Paul, about everything I've tolerated over the years, and how I've allowed myself to be treated. I've spent so much time blaming myself for what happened between us. I kept wondering where I went wrong, what I could have done differently, why I didn't see the signs earlier. But now, I'm starting to understand that none of this was my fault. Paul's actions, his choices, are entirely his own. It wasn't because I wasn't good enough or because I made mistakes. It was because he chose to betray me, and he chose to tear apart a family for his own selfish reasons. I've also been reflecting on how all of this has affected my sense of self. For so long, I believed that I was nothing without my family, that my value was tied to being a wife and a mother. But now, I'm beginning to see that I'm more than that. I've been forced to rebuild not just my family, but myself. It's been painful, and there are days when I feel completely lost. But I'm starting to realize that I can be strong, that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And I'm slowly finding that strength again. I've also been focusing on my own well-being, trying to take care of myself so that I can be there for my kids. I've started running with Mary, which has been an amazing way to clear my head. It's funny, when I first started running, I felt like I was running from everything. But now, I'm starting to feel like I'm running toward something. I'm running toward healing, toward a future where I'm not defined by the mistakes of the past. It's not easy, but it's something. And I'm determined to keep moving forward. As for Paul, I haven't heard from him since that fateful Zoom call. He's been trying to reach out, but I refuse to talk to him. The last thing I want is to engage with him, especially now that I know the depths of his deceit. He's a coward, hiding in Cambodia, running away from his responsibilities, from the consequences of his actions. He thinks he can just disappear and leave us all behind. But he's wrong. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. I've been trying to find some sense of justice in all of this. I've been working closely with my lawyer to move forward with the divorce and custody proceedings. I want to make sure that Paul is held accountable for everything he's done, everything he's taken from us. He doesn't deserve to get away with this. And though he's hiding out in Cambodia, I'm not giving up on seeking justice. I will make sure that this man faces the consequences of his actions. I can't change the past. What's done is done, and no amount of wishing can take it back. But I can control what happens from here on out. I can control how I raise my children, how I heal, and how I move forward. I won't let Paul destroy the future I want for my family. We've been through hell, but we're still standing. And as much as it hurts right now, I know we'll find a way to be whole again. We'll rebuild. It's going to take time, but we're going to make it through this together. It's been a while since I last updated, and I can't believe how much has changed in such a short time. The last few months have been a whirlwind, full of unexpected twists and turns. If I'm being honest, I didn't think things could get worse after everything I've already been through, but somehow they have. However, there's a strange sense of hope creeping in now, one that I didn't think I'd feel again. I'm slowly learning that healing doesn't come in a straight line, and that some days will feel like a step forward, while others will feel like 2 steps back. But the important thing is that I'm still standing. We are there. I'm still working through the pain and the betrayal, and it's an ongoing process. The emotional weight I've carried for so long hasn't disappeared just because I've started taking action. It still hits me hard sometimes. But I've had moments of clarity, moments where I realize how strong I am, how much I've survived, and it's these moments that keep me going. When I last wrote, I was focused on getting through the divorce proceedings. It's still ongoing, but we've made significant progress. My lawyer has been incredible in pushing for full custody of Mary and making sure that Paul faces the consequences of his actions. In the meantime, I've taken steps to protect my kids. I have a restraining order in place against Paul, and he's not allowed to contact us or come near us. I'm relieved that we're finally safe, but I can't deny the lingering anxiety that I feel, knowing that Paul is out there somewhere, trying to avoid facing fallout from his actions. The kids are doing better than I expected. Eric, my son, is a rock. He's been through so much, and yet he handles everything with maturity and grace. He started therapy shortly after everything blew up, and I can see the positive effects it's had on him. He's learning to cope with the pain and the betrayal in healthy ways. And I'm so proud of him for being so open to getting help. He's strong, and while I know it's not easy for him, he's handling this with a level of maturity beyond his years. Mary, on the other hand, has had a more difficult time. Her anger has turned into a deep sadness, and it breaks my heart to see her struggle. She's still hesitant to start therapy, but I'm hopeful that she'll get there in time. She's been spending more time with her friends, and I can see that their support is helping her. But there's a part of me that still worries about her. She's such a strong, intelligent young woman, and I know this has shaken her to her core. I just hope that in time she'll find the peace she deserves. The hardest part for me, as a mother, has been watching my children process this betrayal. They didn't deserve any of this. Eric and Mary are both innocent in all of this, and yet they've had to bear the burden of their father's actions. It's not fair, but despite everything, they're both showing incredible resilience. I just want them to heal, to be able to move forward and not be weighed down by the pain of the past. As for me, I've been doing my best to focus on my own healing. It hasn't been easy, but I've taken small steps toward finding myself again. I've started doing things for me, things I didn't do for years when I was so consumed by the demands of marriage and motherhood. I've been running more, spending time with friends, and rediscovering parts of myself that I had buried for too long. It's been incredibly freeing. Even though it's also hard. The memories of what happened, the betrayal, and the hurt are always there, lurking just beneath the surface. But I'm learning to live with them, to not let them define me. And then came the unexpected. About a month ago, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line just said my first name, and I sat staring at it for what felt like hours, unsure of what to do. I wasn't expecting anything good, but I had to open it, and what I read shocked me to my core. The email was cryptic, but it was definitely from Paul. It seemed like he was trying to reach out, to explain himself. The message was full of contradictions, claiming he was starting over and in love with someone named Dra, a 20-year-old he had met in Cambodia. He tried to sound remorseful, but I could feel the same manipulative tone that had always been there. He even blamed me, saying I forced his hand and that I'd ruined everything. The message was full of self-pity, a plea for me to understand his actions, but I wasn't fooled. The email was bad enough, but then came a second one a week later, and that one really shook me. It was longer, and this time it was more personal. He spoke about his life in Cambodia, about finding happiness with Dra, and about how he was done with the past. He even said, "Don't believe what they tell you about me. I found happiness, and you'll never take it away." Reading that, I felt a mix of disgust and relief. Disgust because Paul was still so deluded, so self-centered. Relief because it was clear that he was gone, that he had made his choice, and that he wasn't coming back. I didn't respond to any of these emails. I forwarded them to my lawyer, who in turn sent them to the authorities. But then I wasn't sure what could be done. Paul had fled the country. He was in Cambodia, a place where there was no extradition treaty, and no way for us to enforce child support or custody. I felt powerless, but at least I knew he was out of our lives for good. Then, a few weeks ago, I received an unexpected visit. A woman showed up at my brother's house, and I had never seen her before. She introduced herself as Nena, from an anti-trafficking group. She told me that she had been contacted anonymously about Paul's behavior in Cambodia. He had been spending too much time in karaoke bars with young local girls, and someone had tipped her off. She did some digging and found a connection tome. I was floored. She showed me messages from Amy. Yes, Amy, our son's ex-girlfriend who had reached out in desperation trying to get help. In those messages, Amy talked about Paul leaving her, about how she now saw his actions in a different light. For the first time, she admitted that something wasn't right, that Paul had manipulated her. Amy was in therapy now, and it seemed like she was finally starting to see the truth. As much as I hate that it had to come to this, I'm grateful that Amy is getting help. I hope that she can recover from the trauma Paul put her through, that she'll realize how toxic his influence was. I can't blame her for everything, but I still wish she had seen the truth sooner. Still, I'm hopeful that she'll heal and maybe one day we can all move forward from this. Eric and Amy recently had a conversation, and it was a difficult one. They met in person along with Amy's mum and me at a coffee shop. It wasn't easy, but there was closure. Amy apologized, and for the first time, I could see that she was beginning to understand what had happened. She wasn't the same girl she had been when she first got involved with Paul. It was painful, but I'm glad that Eric got the chance to hear her say she was sorry, even if it wasn't enough to undo the damage that had been done. Mary, too, is starting to heal in her own way. She's been writing something I never expected her to do. She wrote an essay for school on finding your voice after betrayal, and when I read it, I cried. It was raw, it was beautiful, and it was heartbreaking. She ended it with the words, "After so much silence, I want to be the one who always tells the truth, no matter how much it hurts. The truth sets you free." She is so wise, so strong. She's been through so much, but she's determined to rise above it all. As for me, I'm learning to forgive myself. I'm in therapy now, working through everything that's happened and trying to unlearn the self-blame that has followed me for so long. I've cut my hair, started running, and baking with Eric. Little things, but they feel like steps toward reclaiming my life. Paul may have destroyed so much, but I'm not going to let him destroy him. I'm finally starting to feel like I'm climbing back to the woman I once was and the woman I want to be. We've been through hell, but we're surviving. We're rebuilding, and we're finding strength in each other. There's a long road ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this. Your words have meant the world to me, and I will carry them with me as I continue this journey of healing. I can't change the past, but I can shape my future. And that's exactly what I plan to do.